Yes, guys, what's up? So, Errol the Truth Spence has obviously come out victorious in Sheffield against the special one, Kell Brook. And so far, I've done a lot of videos about Kell Brook, but I haven't done anything on Errol the Truth Spence. Now, I've been telling you guys for a very, very long time that this kid's gonna be something special. I wasn't the only one who's been talking about him. Other channels have also been talking about him. Other people have been talking about him. A lot of people felt he was hype. I told you he's not just hype. I told you he is very good. My only concern with Errol Spence at one point was his footwork, but he showed me in the Errol Bundu fight. Sorry, not in the Errol Bundu fight, in the Leonard Bundu fight, that that's not an issue. That he can move his feet. However, in the Kell Brook fight, I felt he was still quite stationary, but he got the job done. So this video here, we're going to be talking about what have we really learned about Errol the Truth Spence. Now, the number one thing we learned about Errol Spence, okay, it's quite an obvious one, is that he's got a wicked chin, okay? His chin is up to the test. Kell Brook tested it. Kell Brook landed some chocolate brownies as he promised he would. Credit to Kell Brook on that. Put up a very good fight, did Kell. And Spence didn't go nowhere. Okay? At no point did I see Errol Spence hurt. I saw him a little bit stunned, a little bit surprised, but at no point did I see any shakiness in his legs. At no point did we see any sort of glitches in him when he was taking them punches from Kell Brook. Another thing that we learned about Errol Spence is that his work rate can cut down. Okay, when we saw, and he can be outboxed. Okay, so we're gonna put that into one, that his work rate can cut down and that he can be outboxed. Leading rounds 1 to 6, I wanted to see some more activity from Errol Spence, and he seemed like he was getting overwhelmed by the occasion. And I think that when the fight went into the later rounds, I wouldn't say he got lucky, but I'd say that Kell Brook lost it more than Errol Spence won it. I think that Kell Brook's heart was starting to fail him, his fitness was starting to fail him, his mental fatigue was starting to kick in. And I think that Errol Spence at that point saw that and he pressed on the gas. Up until round 6, I think Errol Spence showed a lot of vulnerabilities. A lot of people around me were saying that I failed Kell Brook. I failed Errol Spence. I don't think he's all that. So for people to be saying that, whether that's true or not, it showed vulnerabilities in Errol Spence. Now, obviously, he is against a very good fighter in Kell Brook, but the thing remains that Errol Spence does have vulnerabilities and that he is young. Okay. So the second thing that we learned is that his work rate can cut down. He didn't have a wicked work rate in the early half of the fight. He was digging in body shots, but there weren't that many as much as we're used to seeing from Errol Spence. But yeah, that's the second one. The third thing that we're going to say about Errol Spence is that this boy's defense is a little bit it's a bit shaky. It's a bit shaky because Kell Brook did hit him. Okay, Kell Brook connected him many times. But the thing is, this is where I'm going to say this, okay? Errol Spence's defense is good. It's not bad, but it's a little bit shady. And what do I mean by that? He gets hit, but he doesn't get hit on the chin. That's why he didn't wobble in the fight. So, but having said this, he can be outpointed because he does get hit. He doesn't move his head, okay? And I'm going to also mix in this third point that Errol the Truth Spence, okay, because he is the truth, is stationary on his feet. He doesn't have extremely fast feet. This is going to show when he faces someone like Keith Thurman, who does have very good footwork, okay? So, Errol Spence, I'm going to say his defense, and your defense does include your upper body, it includes your head movement, it includes your footwork. These things for Errol Spence are a bit shady because Errol Spence was at points keeping his hands up and he was coming straight down, straight up against Kell Brook. The next thing I'm going to say, Errol Spence is not a linear fighter. He comes at you in angles. Okay, he comes at you with attacks from angles that you will really struggle with. Now with Kell Brook, he comes from the Ingle camp, so he deals very well with angles because he can fight orthodox and southpaw and can deal with you coming in at different angles. However, when Errol Spence faces fighters who aren't from the Ingle camp, basically, they're going to struggle a little bit because he comes in from strange angles, and this brings us on to the next point. He is a brilliant inside fighter. Errol Spence has showed us in the past his inside fighting, but in this fight, he really, really clearly showed us that he can inside fight. When he had Kell Brook on the ropes, you'll notice Errol Spence's body shots were hooks, but he stopped loading up on the headshots with hooks. He was throwing more straight punches down the pipe because it's easier to land straight punches down the pipe to the head, but you can load up to the body because the body doesn't move. That is Errol Spence's pretty much his ideology, his thinking of his trainer. Load up to the body, do not load up to the head. And that's how Errol Spence fights, and he gets his opponents out of there. And it's a very good tactic to have in the ring. I'm just thinking if we've missed anything out about... Okay, another thing that we've learned about Errol Spence, he could perform on the very big stage under pressure, and he performs better under the lights. Okay, when the pressure was on, Errol Spence performed. He's got heart. Okay, when the lights were on him, when the lights were at their brightest, Errol Spence did not fall at any point in this fight. Yes, he stalled a little bit. He took a few rounds to get going. He was missing a lot. He was quite inaccurate with Kell Brook. But Kell Brook is an A-level fighter. I'm not going to say Kell Brook is B-level because he's not. He's A-level. The only problem Kell Brook had was that quitting thing at the end. Up until that point, Kell Brook is A-level and he proved it. And Errol Spence managed to get him out of there. He pressed the action. And I think that Errol Spence took quite a few rounds to get going. But he's still inexperienced and he's getting better. So for us, I think Errol Spence has answered a lot of questions in the Kell Brook fight. From his chin, from his he's shown us that he's got a little bit of vulnerabilities in his defense. He's shown us that his lack of head movement can be exposed to an extent, but he's a fit fighter. He performs under the lights. He's a person who's made of steel, so to speak. I think he's a very solid fighter. He's not easy to knock out, and he can really take pretty much anyone out in the 147-pound division. If you could take a big animal like Kell Brook out, because that's what Kell Brook is. He's a huge opponent in front of you. If he can take someone like Kell Brook out, who outweighs him, I'm pretty sure he can take anyone in the 147-pound division out. Because I'm telling you, Kell Brook can take some punches. He's got a very good chin, and Errol Spence took him out. So for me, this man is the truth. He will take over the 147-pound division, and he's answered all questions that I had. In regards to his vulnerabilities, from what I saw before about the footwork, I think they showed in this fight. He is quite flat-footed. He does like to cut off the ring, but he does plant his feet a lot. It's something that Dominic Ingle picked up on as well. Something that I picked up on well before the Kell Brook fight was made. If you go back to my videos about Errol Spence, I was a bit wary of his footwork. I wasn't too keen on it. I thought he was a little bit flat-footed. But it's something that he can work on. These are things that he can work on in the future. And if he takes a loss at any point, these are things that he's going to be looking at. These are the reasons that he's going to be taking losses. His head movement is slightly there. I'm not going to say he's got totally zilch head movement, but it's purposeful. Okay, so we've learned a lot about Errol Spence. The truth is, the main thing that we learned in Sheffield is he's got a heart, he's got a chin, he's got punching power, he's got speed, he's got a brain, and he performs under the lights. And that's the main thing that we've learned about Errol, the truth. Spence, hands down, man down. Let me know what you guys think. Put your comments in the section below. Make sure you subscribe to Be Real TV. Let me know what you guys learned about Errol Spence, what you think that you learned. Tell me something that you thought that you didn't know before the fight, and then after the fight you thought, you know what, I'm gonna go back on that. I didn't know that about Errol Spence. I was wary of it, but now he's answered that question. In a bit, guys.